So I think what I'm hearing is in terms of kind of what we're trying to do here is I think I'd prefer to show you more broad strokes of what Storeroom can do, and then I think as folks either tune into this recording or they kind of have what they're trying to do in mind, they'll have all the options, maybe not at a granular level, but then we can always pick things up from there. So when you think about the iLab Storeroom, you can kind of think of it as like your very own 7-Eleven, right? So you're going to be able to not only manage all of the inventory that you have, right? So you can quickly hit this Manage Catalog tab at the top here, and it's going to show you at that core all of the available resources that you have in stock. It's going to show you a list of the available quantities versus how much maybe you'd ideally like to have, right? So you can have the core set minimum and maximums and ideal levels, and essentially these colors over here will actually correlate to these min and maxes, right? So if you determine that 39 is way too few out of 45 and you'd rather that be red to signify the manager that it might be time to reorder, it'll denote that color as red. So again, I'm not going to go into large depth here about how you can actually go in and manage these, but it's really quite simple, right? So if you come in and you notice that this is running low, let's say this one looks a little bit low, you simply adjust this figure here, and you might say, let's add 20. You hit this cart button, which is going to generate the request, and now you've requested those 20. You can then pick that up on the other end, and we'll get to that in a second, but essentially we'll show you how to actually go ahead and transfer that and what that process looks like. You'll notice here at the top, it's going to show that I initiated a request earlier in preparation for this. Another functionality that exists is you can actually bulk request things. So let's go back to Manage Catalog. Actually, I think because I'm already doing it, it deleted that functionality, but oh yeah, here we go, it's back. So at the top here, you'll see request all products in the current search. Working with the core to set up the mins and maxes is really important because it's actually a lot easier rather than going line by line and saying, okay, this one looks low, this one looks high. You can actually just hit request all products in the current search field. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at what those available amounts are at. And if they're below your ideal number, it's essentially going to say, okay, well, I'd like to order so I get back to that ideal number. So that saves you a lot of time. You don't have to like look everything over. It's going to take all of your available offerings and just do that on your behalf. So let's start back to this is really the bread and butter of Storeroom here. And there's a few ways we can look at it. So I'm not sure, Misty, if you know offhand, how the Storeroom would flow. But we tend to see, there's walk-ins, you can order in advance and then come pick it up. You can search the database, you can do it via a kiosk. So I'll just kind of show you all the 3 different flavors, but just know that, if you only have users that are walking in and picking things right from the store, that's a really easy workflow. But if they want to go in advance and search terms or use a handheld kiosk, they can do things that way as well. So I'll just kind of show you what both look like. I'll start by searching a term. I like Atlanta light bulbs. Don't ask me why. I just, it's Friday. I'm feeling some Atlanta light bulbs here. So I put in the search. Obviously, it's going to queue up all of the keywords that have Atlanta in them. So not just light bulbs, but looks like they do some other things as well. And you're going to see the available quantities right here on the right-hand side. Additionally, you can note, like say, you're always ordering light bulbs, things tend to keep blowing out. I don't know what's happening over there, but you need light bulbs, whatever it is. You can favorite them so that they're always going to be in your priority favorites here. So you can quickly just check them and then order them nice and easy. But let's add some to the cart. So when you add them to the cart, it's going to, again, I'm doing this as, I should have clarified, I'm doing this as a test manager, and MSC, as you know, there's all different role-based permissions within iLab. So rather than showing you this as a user's perspective, I'm just going to do it as lab manager because I'm lazy. But obviously, a user could come in here and they could order on their behalf, but as a lab manager, you can also order on behalf of someone. So they could send you an email, they could say, hey, Misty, I need some light bulbs, can you hook it up? And you're like, absolutely, and you're going to create this cart here. Okay. When we create the cart, you'll notice this is a little bit sneaky, and I know we're working on updating our UI, so this is likely something that will change. If you have a good vision, you'll see it went right here. It's going to say you have one unique item in the cart, and let's preview the cart. When you queue up the cart, this is where you can adjust quantity levels. So let's say you want 1, which denotes actually 6 strips. That's something that you can work within our system. So 1 does not necessarily mean 1, because we know that obviously, there are packs of 100, something comes in 20s, 10s, whatever it may be. So just keep that in mind. But let's adjust this to 10. And it'll adjust your anticipated cost right here. it's going to tell you that, yes, it's available in stock. If it wasn't available in stock, it would notify you that, you can order, say, 8 rather than 10. And then you can always continue shopping just like you're on Amazon Prime. You can empty the cart, all those types of things. But let's go ahead and proceed. So when you get to this stage, I'm not sure if all this stuff will be relevant, but we do have this field here where you can add in like a buffer. So you may have some services or auxiliary charges that you're really not quite sure of, but you're like, I think this actually will cost a little bit more than the 6180. You can add in a buffer charge there. This is where you can denote whether it's for pickup or delivery. So again, just based on your workflow, you'll do whichever one makes the most sense. Let's do it for pickup here today, but you can always denote delivery. You can type in obviously the delivery address if that's applicable. You can denote things that are urgent versus routine. So maybe if there are, I don't know, you get something that needs to get there ASAP, you could say it's urgent, but otherwise you can just do a kind of a standard April 20th is fine. Similar to, using a service request or scheduling, it's going to ask you which phone number you're going to want to associate it with. You can obviously split it out just like you can with everything else in iLab. And additionally, similar to the ability in service requests to kind of skip that approval process, you guys can do what makes the most sense for you. If you trust your users and you say, hey, they're just buying light bulbs, really not a big deal, let's skip this approval process, you can go ahead and do so. So just know that they're not going to have to wait on someone to approve it if that's not something that's necessary.
Okay.
But we'll submit that to the researcher. And we'll get this little message here. You can print the request. So this is nice if you have a user that maybe wants to print it out and say, hey, they actually physically show up and maybe they don't have a laptop or an iPhone on them. And you can just show them the printed request and they'd be able to look it up in the system and quickly do that. So that's a nice little feature. But similar again to this is kind of, you'll see this recurring theme here. We'll go back to view all orders and we should see the request went through. If I did it correctly. And it looks like it did. So again, it's saying submitted, the current status. If we had, determined that we didn't need that, it would have just said approved and it's ready to be picked up, or, delivery will be on the 11th. But this brings us to an interesting point here. So we have the open fulfillment kiosk and we have the walk-in kiosk. So I'll start with the open fulfillment kiosk. When you think about this, it's like, this is someone who comes in and they want to basically take something that day. So they're walking into that 7-Eleven and they're like, I'm ready to go. I know what I want. I don't want to wait. Like I'm here to pick up my stuff. So again, because I'm using Helen Pinard as our little test case here, we can see everything that she's ordered previously. It looks like she's not really effective and just, she's picking things but not actually completing anything. I don't really know why that is, Helen, but maybe that's something we want to talk to her about. But let's go ahead and pick this one that we just did with the 20th here. So we do notate that it's been submitted for pickup, right? But if we know it's available on in stock right now, we can actually go ahead and begin the picking process, which is actually, oh, sorry, there we go. This back here. All right, so it's again, just like in iLab, elsewhere, you're going to have a lab you're associated to. So Helen may have a few that she has in mind. We'll go for pickup here. We're going to search the product. Again, you just add in your little keyword search, Atlanta. Find those test strips, add them. Quantity, we'll do 6 this time. So this is just basically a different mechanism to do what we were doing before. Before, you can think of it as like you went on like a website like an Amazon, you said, hey, I want to get those light bulbs, you added them to the cart, and it gave you like an estimated delivery window. Now we have someone who showed up and they want to just, search the storeroom themselves and pick things and add them to their cart. So we're going to request that available amount, which is 6. It's going to notate a little green check mark there. And then again, we're going to associate on the spot which phone number we want to pay for it, because obviously when you have a storeroom, you want people to pay for things. Additionally, you can have this nice request signature component. As you know, iLab does a really great job of kind of auditing and keeping track of everything that goes on. So this is another example. And let's see how I can, let's see this here. Oh yeah. How's that? That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. That's a mouse, keep in mind. All right, not to toot my own horn.
That's pretty good.
So this gives you, again, this is kind of just like from a verification standpoint, that, Helen did actually come in here, or maybe someone that was pretending to be Helen. I don't know if you have that kind of issue, but someone came in here and said, I'm Helen, and signed this. So that's good for your own internal records in case they say, hey, wait a second, I never ordered that and spent $59.34. You could say, well, actually you did. So again, order completed, payment was on the spot because we do have that fund number associated. So that's more of that, again, picking process. But let's take a step back and we'll take a look at the kiosk, which this one's really easy. So if you do have this type of flow, this one's really nice. So this can be done with like an iPad or even your iPhone, works pretty well. But again, we'll start by just doing the name, Helen. She's back, she wants more. She can't get enough of these light bulbs. So this, again, looks a little bit different, but again, it looks really nice on an iPad. And we're gonna start by adding the product. So it has these kind of steps laid out for you, 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna go ahead and search a product. I guess additionally, I'm not sure if you guys have barcode scanners, but just know that we can actually handle those as well. So if you wanna scan products, you can load that with iLab so that you simply scan the selection of products that you have within your storeroom, and then they would queue up here. I don't have one of those at my desk here, unfortunately. I keep asking Buddy, the dog there, to get me one, but he just refuses. I don't get it, but that's an issue for him and I. We're gonna search Atlanta again. We're gonna find those test strips. We're probably gonna deplete the stock here by the end of this, but we'll get another 4. And keep in mind, this is a walk-in. So this is someone who they have their iPad out and they're like, I want to buy these. And then they can determine if someone's going to pick them on their behalf, or they can go ahead and go grab them. It's going to ask us for the payment type. So we're going to hit next. We're going to select a fund. They both don't expire. That's nice. We'll hit next again. And then the same thing pops up. You can add an order note. You might say, hey, sorry for taking all the light bulbs this week. Again, we're going to do Helen. Draw it, and I don't think I can match the last one I did, so I'll just do an H here, and then confirm order that way. So it's, I think that covers the 3 ways you can do it, right? So if we were to review, you essentially can go on the iLab website ahead of time. It's like an Amazon, Prime. You'd kind of search what you're looking for, and you place the order. Once you place the order, depending on how it's set up, you would wait for the lab manager here to say, okay, I see that it's submitted, they've reviewed it and they've accepted it, and they'll indicate a time for you to either pick it up or deliver it to you. Additionally, if you don't want to wait and you want to actually walk in, you can use the self-service kiosk, which is where you just have an iPad in the storeroom. They would check in, check themselves out, grab what they need to do. And then additionally, you do have those fulfillments. Another really crucial part about Storeroom, like any of our other modules, is that all of the reporting and billing and POs and all those types of things are going to be the exact same as you've seen them before, Misty. So I'm not going to really spend time going into that, but just know that obviously you'll be able to report on, how many light bulbs were sold that month, or like what's your main inventory product, and all those types of things, which I think would be useful for someone managing their storeroom from a functionality standpoint. It's almost like when you think about grocery stores, and when they try to figure out how many cans of peas do I need, you can look at last month and say, okay, well, it looks like we ordered 40,000, maybe we should order 42,000. So that type of reporting is really handy for these types of folks. But other than that, just know that managing the catalog is really easy to do, and it's something that can be done within an iLab, and we actually tie directly into the procurement. So if we load in all of the available inventory that you have, so whether that's products from, we mentioned Atlanta Light Bulb, but there's Agilent, there's Pfizer, whatever you guys have, we load them in here, and then you can use your standard procurement process to fulfill them, right? So we look at our inventory levels, we say, hey, there's 0 out of 20, and you can order them right here. And when you order them, it's going to queue up all this information. You can assign payment, you can finalize it, and then once you've ordered it, it just goes back to that standard procurement workflow that you may have in place. So they'll get like a notification, and they'll place the order, and then the stock, once you hit order, will automatically adjust the quantity, but it may say pending in terms of the delivery status. You can always manage your catalogs, right? We talked about which products you want in here. So you can delete them out, you can add them in on a whim. It's really easy to do. Just like making a new service or a new instrument, you just mention the supplier, the catalog number, a little description, link to the website, all those types of things can really easily be done. I don't know if you guys do dynamic pricing. Obviously you have internal, external, corporate rates. Just really a slew of offerings that we can do here with Storm, which is why I like to keep things a little bit broad. And then, if someone's watching this and they see things that stick out, obviously more than happy to go into more finite detail and look more specifically at what you're doing and kind of how that would work. So, I mean, that pretty much wraps it up. I know that was only about 20 minutes, but that's really it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You can manage your inventory that way. You can do ordering via a few different mechanisms. Everything's going to be reportable, easily tracked in billing, and add in new catalogs and kind of services. Additionally, actually, I should call out one last thing. You can make special requests. So let's say you have a user that comes in and they're like, you know what the heck? You guys used to have these in inventory, now you don't. You can make a special request to the lab manager and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Or here's all the details, can we get this in the next month or so? They can look at that request and say, no, tough, or they can say, yeah, we can take care of that for you. So I know that was a lot, Misty. Any questions for me? What do you got?
I see the services above it. So they could combine their storeroom inventory with services that they offer.
Absolutely. So that's a great point. So remember we talked about that buffer charge? That's really where that comes into play. So this one doesn't have any loaded in because it's just a demo here, but you can add in the services available and you might say, hey, actually there's one here right here, request bacteria strip testing. So you might say whenever you get a light bulb, you need to, for some reason, do this request bacteria strip testing, and you would just initiate the request and then you could tie in the actual inventory. So it marries the two together and then that would be on the invoice.
Okay, what if it's, so we have, I know there's a couple floors that have both a storeroom, but then it's like a repair facility combined in one. So would they be able to have services like not associated with an inventory if they had this turned on, or would they need two separate floors?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. So with Storeroom, every core actually comes with that base suite functionality as well. So that's embedded within it. So they could do both, and they can keep them separate or combine them or do what they need to do.
One other thing that I noticed, you had the barcode functionality where you could scan something and it would input it into a field. If you're doing a request, so for these repair facilities, they may put a barcode on, like, say somebody is dropping off a computer that needs to be fixed, and they put a barcode sticker on that. Could they scan that sticker into a field so that it would associate that request with that piece of equipment?
That's an interesting question.
And I know that's a little off of the storeroom, but...
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it would be able to associate it at a request level. I know that a barcode can obviously associate at an item level, but that's an interesting question. I think I have to look into that before I give you like a really concrete answer, but I'll definitely make note. And these are the questions that I think will arise as you have folks interested. So it's good that we're asking them. But yeah, I'll definitely see if the barcode functionality would actually tie directly into that repair service or how that would work.
Even if it was just a blank text field and you could use the scanner to input that number. So that would be, I think, something that could be very useful.
Yeah, I think at the bare minimum, I mean, I know that like within a service, we could always build in like a form, and maybe they have to manually write in that barcode number, like a little annoying, but I think that would still work. But I'm still curious if the actual barcode functionality would be able to work there.
Yes, if that worked, that would be a huge time saver for people.
For sure. Okay, great question. I'll make note of that.
Thank you.
Any others?
Yeah, I don't have any off the top of my head, but I'm sure as we get cores into it and looking at this, I'm sure that they will have questions